Hi guys, just making a short little video. I'm in this lovely little thicket of oak at the moment. There's a beautiful oak tree. The way it twists and turns, such a strong bit of wood. Yeah, I would love to collect some of this wood, but obviously I would not touch anything like this because they're alive and I've got no right to do that. And they'll probably outlive me. I mean, God knows how old this thing is. But I think they can actually live to, well, the oldest I think is 2,000 years. But, you know, we're talking a few lifespans with this one here. But, yeah, amazing tree. So, as I say, never touch these. These are truly a treasure. If you think of things in value, like we celebrate time quite often with silver, gold, jubilee, anniversary, whatever. And it goes on then from to diamond, platinum, I think. But then eventually you get to oak. And I think rightly so. Oak just seems like it's going to be here a long time after we are. But I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, back to the actual thing I'm going to show you. This really is a treat of an area. We've got the tall Scots pines, and the young oak trying to wrestle in between. There's lots of young oak in shot. They're roughly 10 years, I would guess, judging by their girth. And as we pan around, we can see a lovely young specimen of the oak. Again, I would say 10, maybe 12 years old. They're very slow growing, not in any rush, but already the canopy on this is quite large, and that is where it really thrives in its girth. The width from over there to over there is occupied now, absorbing all of that sun. This is an English oak. You can tell this by plucking one of the leaves. Hopefully that won't hurt it too much. But English oak has a very short stem, like that. That was taken right to the branch. Whereas if we just manipulate this a little, the ones that tend to grow over the west side of the country, Wales, in Scotland, are called the Cessar oak, and their stem will look a little bit more like that, but otherwise very similar. I think they're a little bit longer, or maybe shorter, but the point is I don't have them around this area, unfortunately, the Cessar oak or the northern. But yeah, they just have a longer coming out of the branch, just a longer stem. To compare the two, so you know exactly what I'm on about. That is the key difference. Quite an obvious difference as well. There is many other species of oak, but these are the main species. The oak. You can quite clearly see this large oak in front of us, spreading itself out in all directions, as oak often does. It's unfortunately covered with ivy, but I'm going to attempt to measure the diameter of the trunk. You need to do this about 1 meter up, but it's whether I can get in between all that ivy and try and see how old this tree is, because it's got a huge trunk that's not really suffering dieback just yet, which was that process that I was on about earlier, where it basically loses limbs deliberately to concentrate on keeping itself alive nearer to the ground, and they actually shrink with age, much as we do. So there's another link with us and this fantastic tree. We might also make another one out over the back there, just past the rapeseed oil. Well, not oil, just past the rapeseed. And this really is a beautiful little spot. It's a little bit windy at the moment. I hope you can hear me clearly, and the wind isn't doing its thing to the camera. But we'll go in a bit closer, and then I shall attempt to measure it. About make that out inside that mess, so we're going to have to take a little bit off because of that if I'm going to measure this, so it's going to be very approximate. Yes, unfortunately we simply can't measure that. There is far too much of that ivy in the way, which is a shame because it's got a lot of girth. So we'll move on. What we've got here is just the length of paracord. I've marked it off into meters. There's a red mark every meter. So we're going to see how many meters this has got in girth. Roughly 1 meter high. Conclusion is that is 4.5 meters in diameter. So what we then do is the equation, which is quite simple. The average is what we're going to work by, and oak grow on average 2.5 centimeters per year in girth. That's on average. That can depend on many things: placement, climate, whether the soil's in good condition, the list goes on and on. But they've obviously conducted this study for a long time, and they've cut a lot of oak over the years, so it's going to be a consistent average of 2.5. So if that's 4.5 at 2.5, .5 centimeters. Need to do a bit of quick maths. 4, 2 4s. And just a bit further down this country lane, come across this. Now this really is getting old. I'm going to measure it and gauge how old it is roughly. It's obviously in its dieback phase, where it's pulling back, getting shorter, getting smaller, but still living all the same, and still producing acorns and leaves. Very much still alive, and can easily live many centuries more yet. But I'm going to put you down while I quickly wrap my measuring paracord out and see how wide this one is and how old approximately this one is. Right, that is a staggering 7 and a bit meters. So if we said 7 at 2.5 centimeters a year, so for 10 years it's 25 centimeters. For 100 years it's 250. For 10 years